I'm Danny Lemberger. This is an address to you, dear fellow Scientologist. Over 2 years ago, I embarked on a vast dissemination project of Scientology, Ron Hubbard's applied philosophy. This project, named Life Power, is still in creation, yet finally it is ready to be announced. I would like to share with you the story behind it, what I'm doing and why. Allow me first a few words about myself, which may explain my dedication to Ron and the huge investment I am making in this project. Distant past. This lifetime, I started doing Scientology at the San Francisco Mission, run by Reggie Caldwell. As I walked up the stairs to the mission on Sutter Street in April 1980, I had a weird sensation of, this must be it, what I've been looking for a long time. In the prior years, I had done almost every practice available. There were many gains, but they all felt an almost, not quite the real thing. These other practices, 5 years of psychoanalysis, Zen Buddhism, meditation, yoga, Carlos Castaneda, Alan Watts, Timothy Leary's LSD, Judaism, Marxism, sex, philosophy, economics, politics, Master of Business Administration, art, and brilliant friends provided some understanding of life and fleeting highs, but they were far from an explanation of human existence. They did not provide sustained personal improvement, nor a remedy for my gloom. And there were some weird, inexplicable phenomena, pictures in my mind, ideas, emotions, which I could not explain. Just a knowingness that there is something I once knew but cannot recall. At the mission, I instantly became enthusiastic on the COM course supervised by David Michael. I received student auditing on New Era Dianetics from Laura Hawkes, going whole track on my third session. I began auditing others on NED under legendary Class 8 C.S. Bob Laufer, and went exterior when cogniting on the power of this technique, which somehow felt familiar. As I progressed with my auditing, the mental fog lifted. I recalled auditing from past life that I had co-audited tons of Dianetics before. On my CCRD, down at Asho, Los Angeles in 1988, the time and location I went clear was Tel Aviv, 1951. Strange, clear in Tel Aviv in 1951? I had already learned not to force logic on my time track and not to argue with what comes up. Apparently, in 51, I was a recent fugitive from war-torn Europe, a German Jew who escaped the Holocaust, now living in Tel Aviv, itself war-ravaged and scraping on food rations, and somehow I did Dianetics then. Tammy and I rapidly moved up the bridge. We first came to Flag in 1989. I did my L11 admin training and OT levels. Tammy did her OT levels and auditor training. We lived with our 2 small kids in the Hacienda Gardens, mixed accommodations for staff and public. And who were our next door neighbors? The most dedicated and lovable Scientologists ever, Victor and Erica Baram. We'd pop in quite often. There was so much to hear from them, such high affinity, and so much in common. They were refugees from Germany. Victor, the age of my mother, had been a Dianeticist from 1951 in Tel Aviv. He later joined staff at St. Hill, trained as a Class 6 under Ron, and was stationed by the Guardian's office in Berlin. We became close friends, and several years later, when we got Tammy's father on the bridge, he lived several months with Erica in East Grinstead, while Victor was at Flag, FESing in the LZGC. Erica later joined Victor in Clearwater. One evening, at the Hacienda, I asked Victor how he started Scientology. he told me this fantastic story about some New York Jew who came to Israel at the end of 1950 with a suitcase full of Dianetics books. Victor never met the guy. He didn't even know his name. This guy handed out the Dianetics books, and a copy reached Victor, who started auditing, lecturing, and founded the first Dianetics group in Tel Aviv, early 1950s. After one such lecture, he was approached by a young lady, Erica, interested not only in Dianetics, who later became his wife. From my auditing and the CCRD, I knew this was how I started too, but decided not to say anything to Victor. No case discussion, we were told. I recalled finding the book in Tel Aviv through a friend in late 1950 and studying it fervently and co-auditing for over a year, despite my poor English. Me and my buddy co-audited hundreds of hours and wildly overran Dianetics. I went clear end of 1951, but we sailed on a few more months. I hit heavy charges and explosions. These kept me awake at night and finally, on a cold, rainy night, sent me spinning with my motorbike into a truck. I picked up this body with the Lemberger family on 31 May 1952. They decided to call it Daniel, Danny for short. They too, of course, were German refugees who luckily escaped the Holocaust, then made it to Haifa, Palestine, in 1935. Ilan Baram, son of Victor and Erica, was our close friend and Tammy's clear until Miscavige did us part. He met his wife Vered at Dror Center in 2006. Some years ago, Ilan gave me a copy of Certainty magazine of February 1954. Page 18 is titled Scientology Overseas. Take a look. This is Certainty magazine, February 1954, and here's page 18, Scientology Overseas. It had this story. This month, our report comes from Israel. It all started when Bernie Ross came to Israel from the States in the year 1950, bringing some 15 copies of Hubbard's first book with him. Bernie proceeded to place the books at several libraries and bookstores after first writing his name in them. It did not take long before a group of interested people started co-auditing. During 1951, teams formed and separated. Psychosomatics were treated with success, and people found themselves more self-determined. On the 16th February 1952, people founded the Dianetic Center of Israel. Victor Hochman became secretary, whose enthusiasm and organizatory abilities brought things to a head. Now, people in Israel are of the most diverse cultural and language background. The first course for auditors, led by Eugen Adler, was held in German. The second course, led by Amiram Goldblatt and Menahem Berglas, was in Hebrew. This means that every bit of material received has to be translated first into several languages. Also, every course has to be divided into two parts, theory, techniques, and in this way, a course may take as long as several months. End of quote. Thank you, Bernie Ross, for bringing Dianetics to Israel. I do not remember if we ever met. The person mentioned above as secretary of the Dianetic Center, Victor Hochman, is, you may have guessed, Victor Baram. I happen to speak both German and Hebrew. Hochman in German is tall man. Baram in Hebrew is tall man. Victor is Hebrew for Victor. In February 1952, when skidding with my bike into the truck and having my head crushed, I made a sharp decision. I will be back. I promised myself I will soon return to study Hubbard's philosophy and dedicate my next life and those after to the study and application of the only workable spiritual technology known to mankind. And this I've been doing ardently or fanatically since 1980. Recent past. In 1992, Tammy and I returned to Israel following extensive training at Flag, both of us on solo notes. We established Dror Center, which steadily grew to become one of the largest missions under the Church of Scientology. Around the year 2000, it became pretty obvious that something is rotten in the kingdom of Denmark, Shakespeare's Hamlet. But I also knew well, from my wealth of education and experience as an executive, that the fish rots from the head down. All my attempts at communication with top management or correction of severe outpoints were met with threats and punishment. Eventually, in 2012, it was manifest that we can only do Scientology and remain loyal to Ron Hubbard outside the church. True, Hubbard founded the church in the early 1950s, but with him off guard 30 years later, it had been taken over by some evil individuals, greedy for self while crushing Ron's vision of a cleared planet. In June 2012, we were expelled and declared suppressives with most of our group. The initial fears were soon replaced with fervor to collect all of Ron's writings and train on the precise delivery of the full bridge 100% standard. This we have done with great success. In June 2012, there were about 50 persons on Dror lines. When we left, we went down to about 40, since around 10 stayed in the church, poor souls. Now, in May 2019, we have over 100 people on lines, many coming from Europe. We deliver with perfect results the OT levels, the fabulous L rundowns, and our booming academy is turning out new auditors steadily. But a major issue still needs fixing. Present situation. The most severe challenge we face and have been wrestling with since 1950 is how to reach the broad population of this planet. If we are serious when saying cleared planet, then we envision millions going up the bridge and Earth's population admiring Hubbard and his philosophy. Ron's teachings must become acceptable to governments, opinion leaders, therapists, educators, communities, universities, and the media worldwide. This is an ideal scene statement, yet frankly, the reality we face is far from it. Simply stated, we're talking marketing. How do we get thousands of new people on the bridge? How do we present Ron's philosophy to the broad public? How do we sell auditing and training? How do we create a new civilization and a spiritually aware individual? Ron could have never envisioned that the organization he founded, the Church of Scientology, being taken over by traitors. Thus, true Scientology being delivered only outside the church by indies and free zoners. It is now our duty to carry the torch, to disseminate and deliver standard tech. In July 1974, Ron issued ED 243, Books Make Booms, which became the major motto for our marketing. Ron re-emphasized this message in Policy Letter 10 July 79, Publications orgs are sales orgs, setting at the end, summary, book sales are the key to org survival and expansion. They are the first line of promotion and contact. Flood the public with books and they will come into the org for services in droves. Books do make booms. Seriously now, is this working? Are millions of Hubbard's books sold annually to the world's population? Are they coming into the orgs, church or independent, for services in droves? Are Ron's books currently making a boom? The reality which we must face and take responsibility for is that this is not happening. There are many reasons why not, but I'll state just a few based on my experience and observation. Our major textbook is Dianetics, published by Ron in 1950. For today's audience, almost 70 years later, this book is hard to read. Nowadays, they want the message short, quick, simple, and with lots of math, graphics and video clips, easy to digest. Even when one does read book one, it's quite a challenge to audit a PC just based on the book. Over the years, managing Dror Center and talking to hundreds of people, a few who have read Dianetics approached me and demanded to go clear like it says in the book. They were dismayed to hear, "We don't do it like this anymore. The tech has advanced, and now we have the bridge." Book one does not contain the tech as it is now practiced. Since Ron made so many discoveries right after 1950, and he continued to develop the tech remarkably. To name just a few breakthroughs after 1950, the discovery of the Thetan as source of life. The whole track one must audit to go clear, not prenatal engrams. The discovery of electrical mental charge and introduction of the e-meter, ARC, TRs, objectives, PTS tech, overts and withholds, the grades, and much, much more. Culminating in 1978 with Neurodynetics and R3RA as the rundown that takes you to clear. All this before even mentioning the OT levels. There are many other LRH books and lectures and bulletins, most of which are not accessible to the broad public, too complex to grasp or apply from reading only. About 2 years ago, I realized something's got to be done. It soon dawned on me that the bell tolls for thee. If I don't do it, who will? I cannot wait for another to do what must be done. I can only take responsibility, do it myself, and suffer the consequences. The handling. I set myself down to write a book whose name evolved into Life Power. I wrote it in English and Hebrew. It's since been translated into Russian, French, Latvian, German, and Spanish. We are establishing the LP network, myself temporarily the owner and financial supporter. We are building websites in the 7 languages and opening LP centers and course rooms in several locations. Here's the book in English. Here's the book in Russian. The LP book of 370 pages has 2 main parts. Part A, Understanding, contains much of the philosophy's essentials: dynamics, tone scale, ARC, KRC, admin scale, be do have, the spirit, how the mind works, analytical and reactive minds, and much more. Part B, Ability, is the practical, lots of drilling and co-auditing, confront drills, OW write-up, optional, recall processes, as in self-analysis, then clearing process, same as Dianetics. The book introduces readers to the e-meters and urges going up the bridge to clear. Hubbard is presented in the book, and myself, his student and follower. This structure follows Ron's instructions in HCOPL 7 April 65, book income. Ron says, another pre-selection point is the offer of doingness type books. Do it yourself. Any two people can. Do what's in this book and get better. Ron continues. Books have to be 1. Offered with heavy impact. 2. Have to be delivered fast to give delivery impact. And 3, this is very important, contain material to fit the person's level so that Scientology is aroused. The major feature of the LP book is that it teaches how to audit. It's precisely per on 100% standard tech, just written, simplified, and presented for today's audience. The book contains more than 100 original color illustrations, highly aesthetic. The book is attractive to look at, and the illos provide mass when teaching the dynamics, tone scale, comp formula, spirit, reactive mind, traumas, incident chains, ARC triangle, and many more concepts. When designing the book, I had in mind the basics: HQS course, HDA, Hybrid Dynamics Auditor course, and the Anatomy of the Human Mind course, AHMC. Ron outlines this sequence in ED 344, 10 May 82, The Ridge on the Bridge. A lecturer who has been running the AHMC on Italian TV, he has been very successful, getting near to 100% sign-ups after Book 1, Anatomy of the Human Mind course, and HQS. He also found that the AHMC was best to bridge people over from Book 1 to Scientology services, since the subject covered are not only the analytical and the reactive minds, but also the thetan, mind and body, communication, tone scale, cycle of action, ARC triangle, etc. This gives an intro to Scientology. End of quote. Perfect. Precisely what you will find in Life Power. The Life Power centers then demanded of me to lower the gradient even further and write additional introductory books, of which 2 are done. Here they are. This is the complete communication manual, teaches TR 0 to 4. This book is the story of CNI, theory and practice of control and intention, teaches the subjects of control, intention, postulate, determinism, and drills the upper indoc TRs 6 to 9. Each of the 3 books has a course check sheet. The communication course and control and intention course being prerequisites for the LP coach course. The LP coach course teaches the student thoroughly the building blocks of our philosophy and then trains them as book auditors. The graduates receive a certificate of licensed LP coaches, and we assist them in opening new LP centers with technical support, materials, a page on our website, and promotion on social media. The first LP center outside Israel opened a few months ago in Riga, Latvia, and is prospering, its students eager to go up the bridge. I assure you that all that's in these books is 100% standard LRH technology. I wouldn't have it any other way. My partners are KSW fanatics who would never let me do it any other way. Over the past 27 years as manager of Dror Center, I have given tens of lectures to thousands of people, many of whom went up the bridge. Hundreds of people have spoken to me in person seeking my advice and went on course or auditing. You could say this project is my power change condition, and these books are my head write-up. What I'm doing is not novel or unique. Ron encouraged others to write and publish, including Mary Sue Hubbard, yet most famous with Ruth Minchell. The church itself, over the years, published many books and packs for new public, such as the Dianetics and Scientology picture books, the How to Use Dianetics videos, life improvement courses, the Scientology handbook, and materials for its various networks, WISE, Criminon, Narconon, and Applied Scholastics. LP has been in piloting the past year. It is proving to be a reliable, no-fail bridge to the bridge, an undercut that facilitates people's early acquaintance with Ron and his tech. Most people then reach for the bridge and are easy to handle at one of the LP centers. Once on the bridge, they receive auditing precisely per LRH bulletins and books. And when training in the academies, the materials are only LRH. Ron says in HCOB 5 March 65, Book of Case Remedies, Application of Tech. A sure road to award and glory is to find a new application for an existing Scientology process or principle or book. The period of the discovery of principles, processes, or original works is surely over, as we have everything. Inventing and using new processes is a sure way to slow down the advance. There were only so many anyway, and it's been done. But new ways to apply or disseminate what we've got are welcome, welcome, welcome. We've not nearly enough of those, and we'll be inventing or seeing them for the next umpty trillion years. We are the trustees of Ron's legacy. In 1957, Ron published a booklet, Scientology Clear Procedure, Issue 1. In the introduction, Ron charged us as follows. Therefore, I charge you with this. Look to source writings, not to interpretations. Look to the original work, not offshoots. If I have fought for a quarter of a century, most of it alone, to keep this work from serving to uphold the enslavers of man, to keep it free from some destructive pitch or slant, then you certainly can carry that motive a little further. I'll not always be here on guard. The stars twinkle in the Milky Way, and the wind sighs for songs across the empty fields of a planet, a galaxy away. You won't always be here. But before you go, whisper this to your sons and their sons. The work was free, keep it so. Thank you.